It was 1914, and the Great War had just begun. In Tredegar, South Wales, there was a young man called Bert. Bert had a girlfriend called Daisy. She knew of Bert's intention to join up with his friends, but of course she was upset and did not want him to go. One day, Bert and his friend Di reported to the Sahawi drill hall. They gave their names and were issued with a rifle and a kit bag. They embarked on a troop ship which left Cardiff for a place called Flanders in Belgium. This is where they were going to fight for our country. After a few days of hard walking, they reached the front lines of the battlefield. This was a place called Ypres. There were flashes from shells exploding all around, which came from the British, French, and of course from the Germans. They were marching through fields which were all muddy, with large deep puddles and craters made from the shells landing. After a few hours, the men were feeling battered and tired. Bert was looking over the trench when he couldn't believe his eyes. Coming towards him was a dog. He wore a vest tied underneath his stomach, on which was a red cross. The dog was wagging his tail and was out of breath from running. "Listen, my lad," said the officer. "You may depend on that dog while you are here. He is called a mercy dog, and he is specially trained by the army to look after you. If you're in danger, or even injured, that dog will help find you, and then you'll get help off the medics, Red Cross, or even the St. John's Ambulance Brigade." Bert and Bob became inseparable. The regiment called them the Man and His Companion. One day there was a loud shout, "Medic! Medic!" Bob's ears pricked up in the direction of the voice, and his tail started to wag. Bert said, "Go on, Bob, search." Bob ran off with Bert close behind. When Bob arrived at the wounded soldier, he barked. Bob could see the soldier was injured. Bert said, "Well, good boy. Come here, Bob, and the medic can examine the man." Bob ran over to Bert with a little woof and licked Bert's hand. Bert kept praising Bob for doing a great job. Back in the main trench, the officer in charge said, "Private Bert, is that dog yours?" "Yes, sir. He attached himself to me and our regiment when we arrived here." "Well, lad," said the officer, "I have just witnessed an heroic act of bravery in saving that injured soldier, especially as he was under fire from the enemy. Marvellous bravery of a wonderful dog." It was a hard battle, and many soldiers were injured. Bert was helping a medic, when suddenly he shouted out, "I've been hit!" and fell unconscious. A few hours passed, and Bert was now in the hospital tent. He said, "Nurse, do you know what happened to my dog?" The nurse replied, "I managed to get in touch with one of the vets, but I'm afraid Bob is in a very bad way." Later in the day, a soldier came and said, "Hello, Bert. I'm a helper at the vet hospital. I'm taking you to see Bob." When they arrived, in shock, Bert said, What has happened to my poor friend?" Bob had large bandages around his stomach. But when he saw Bert, his tail started to wag. One day, Bert was summoned to the office. "Private Bert, I have something to tell you. You will be returning home in the next couple of months, because this war is now over." Bert couldn't believe his ears. He was so happy. No more shells or bullets, no more injured young men. "Secondly," he said, "I am delighted to tell you you have been awarded the Victoria Cross for your outstanding bravery. In 1916, at the Battle of the Somme, you and your dog, of whom I understand you made friends with at the beginning of the war, have worked remarkably well together in saving many lives. I believe your dog is worthy of an award too." A few weeks later, they finally got home. Bert's family, along with Daisy, were so pleased to see him. They made a lot of fuss of Bob too. As the years went by, Bert, Bob and Daisy lived happily in their hometown of Tredegar, South Wales. Bert never forgot his friends, especially Di, who was sadly killed at the Somme and had been buried in France. In total, over 2 million men and women died during World War I. On the 11th of November each year, Bert and Bob would go to the War Memorial and lay their poppies. They remembered all their families and friends who had lost their lives through war. The war had ended on the 11th day of the 11th hour of the 11th month in 1918. So when you lay your poppies at the local war memorial, think of Bert and Bob. Remember all the other soldiers, sailors, airmen, and all the animals that have served in wars past and present. May we always remember them.